everybody. My name is not Tim Daniel, although I have heard some people have said that I look a little bit like him. I don't know. I think I got a
Uh,
fuller
yeah, a
beard
little,
going
yeah,
on.
a little bit, a little
Tried to
bit.
tried to grow it a little bit more. This man laughing to my left is Ben Brown,
What's
and
up, man?
man, it's good to be here. Good to have
Hey,
somebody
listen,
else to talk to.
I did. Hey, listen, I got everything right. I hit the live button. I hit the video, dude. I am winning right now.
Technical, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Ben Brown, the technician. That's what we're
there
gonna
it
call you.
is. There it
Um,
is.
you are lock or late night Reds, not locked on Reds. That's the L. It gets me.
Yep.
Welcome to this week's late night Reds, part of Riverfront Media and the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us for a little bit of Reds talk. Hopefully, you drop down into the comments section, say a quick hello, a hearty hello, and a hearty "We love David Bell" or not. I don't
Or
know that
no.
we're going to go there. It's quite a weekend for David Bell, quite a weekend for our Redlegs. A must-win series, as most of us amongst Reds country were calling it. And Ben, what'd they do with that must-win series?
Oh man, we call it poop down the leg is what we call it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think
exactly
that's
what
the
we do.
scientific term for it.
That's the
Scientific term.
scientific term. Yeah, yeah. We definitely pooped down our leg, and there were such high hopes coming out of that Atlanta series. You take two of the possible two there, and you're like, okay, well, that's a good sign. You're on the road, take two, and we're going to play a good but not a decent but not great Tampa Bay team. You're like, all right, well, we got a shot to at least get 2 out of 3 from them,
Right.
and maybe get the ball rolling a little bit. We did
The
not do that. We
the
did not.
only thing when coming into that series that I was looking at, and I'm like, maybe, but I'm like, it's one stats, nothing. The only thing I was a little bit worried about was, hey, the Rays, they're pretty good at drawing walks.
Yeah.
Well, eighth inning on Sunday, that reared its ugly head. Reds
Yes, it
dropped
did.
2 of 3 in the weekend series. Yeah, I think Carey says it best. The Reds are consistently inconsistent. Um,
Absolutely.
my goodness, they will play bad, and it's funny too because I tried to break this down. I'm like, okay, well, surely they've got a good record against above 500 teams and a bad record against below 500 teams because that's how it feels. It's actually the
Hmm.
other way around. Like overall, they still have a better record against teams below 500, but that is absolutely bumped up by the fact that
Yeah.
they've played the Rockies 8 times. I mean, talk about a gift. You got to face the Rockies in probably the worst year of their franchise
Yep.
8 times, and you beat them 7 out of 8. And they faced the White Sox. Well, I mean, everybody gets to face the White Sox, but they swept the White Sox.
Yep.
They swept the Angels. Like, they really did take advantage of the really bad teams. It's
Bad
these
teams. Yeah.
middle teams, these close teams they just can't seem to beat.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is because, like well, I do know what it is. I mean, we have one run. We got one run yet today and shutout yesterday. So I mean, you're not scoring runs. You're actually getting decent pitch. Freaking Hunter Green has been flipping
Yeah.
phenomenal all through July, and he throws another gem today, and we can't take advantage of it. So it's frustrating to say the least, just because it's like you're getting some of the things that you need, and you're just not getting through to the other side on those, and it's super frustrating.
Right. And, it starts off the series itself. Reds get a win on Friday night.
Mhm.
What is that? I have to go back to that stat that Tommy Thrall said on the radio broadcast. This was probably about a month or two ago, so I'd have to see what the updated numbers are. But they're like something like a 700 a ball club in the first game of a series.
Okay.
Like they're
Oh yeah, I could
killing
see
the
that.
first game,
Mhm.
killing it, and then the rest of the series they just I don't they go to sleep or something because that's
Mhm.
exactly what happened. They win 3-2 on Friday. Good pitching. You had Nick Lodolo who almost goes 7 innings. The bullpen gets the job done as it needs to do. I mean, when you see a stat line of Alexis Diaz going 1 inning, allowing 0 base runners, quite frankly, that feels as though that's like a
Mm-hmm.
surprise, which is such a bummer because of the way that his career started. Nick Martinez, I thought he was bumping up his trade stock, and he maybe still has, but hadn't been traded yet. And then you're like, okay, everything's good. 3-2. 3-2 ball game. That's the kind of thing that they're gonna win.
Yep.
And then Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
Saturday, okay. Andrew Abbott doesn't have the best of days, but he only gives up 4 runs.
See, yeah, and that's the thing for me. Like to me, giving up 4 earned runs, you should still have a shot. Like that's
Yeah,
like as a pitcher, a major league pitcher. I mean, you don't want to see your pitcher give up 4, but I think he went 4 through 4. He only got through 4 innings, right?
right. And
Yes. So I
I mean,
mean, 4 through 4. I mean, he was all right. It's not terrible. It's not
right, he
terrible. So
threw 88 pitches in those 4 innings, and you had 5 innings of good work from the bullpen. Again, 2 walks. That's something this bullpen loves to do, is give up walks.
mhm.
But no other base runners, no other damage. Yazur Zulueta ending that game. But there's something about this lineup. And even in years past, I would say it was a lefty. But Zach Little is a righty. Like
Mhm.
Zach Littell, a right-handed pitcher that going into that ball game, even after 7 shutout innings, has an ERA over 4,
Yep.
which means he's not good.
Nope.
So,
Hey, yeah,
I
nope.
it just it's things like that that kill me. And then Sunday. Sunday is the sum of all fears when it comes to the
Mhm.
Cincinnati Reds. And I don't know, like, what do you think about this? Because I did my episode a little bit early today and went ahead and released it because I had some thoughts and wanted to bottle that energy up after that game.
Oh yeah.
Was that the worst loss that they've had?
Oh. Um. Yeah, because it was. I think so because of the importance of that game. Like to win that series. We talked about this being such an important series, being so late in the year as a winnable series, and you're right there. You get the start that you need from Hunter Green. You get early runs. Yeah. I mean, I think you were set up to win, and you found a way to lose. So yeah,
I
that's probably the biggest one.
I want to spend a lot of time like praising our man Hunter Green here in a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
It's it's got to be so frustrating to be him. Like the number of
Mhm.
starts that he has had that have just been, I mean, Cy Young caliber starts that he
Yep.
has had, and the Reds have managed to score like 1 or 0 runs in the
Yep.
time that he's on the mound. So I mean, even in this game, he actually leaves with the win as the pitcher of record in the win
Mhm.
column, and then the bullpen, the 8th inning, like 1 hit. They give up 1 hit, but
Hit.
because of 3 walks and Austin wins. I don't know if it was some sort of possession, supernatural forces. Maybe there was a disturbance in the force, a glitch in the matrix. Trying to look
Something.
for anything that says that he didn't just bungle that so
Yeah.
bad. That
Yeah.
drop third strike, dude. Like I was
Yep.
listening on the radio. I didn't like get the chance to see it on the Roku channel, but the way that Tommy Thrall described it is the way that Tommy Thrall describes
Mhm.
any play that just makes you want to bury your head in the sand. He
Yep.
was like,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
the ball gets
It's
away.
away.
He can't find the
The
ball.
ball.
There's so many reactions that are going
Uh,
through my mind with this, Ben. Like this series, I don't think, and I want to get into this a little bit later with you. This does not have a bearing on what I think the Reds should do at the trade deadline. I saw a lot of
mhm.
articles to the contrary of that. I don't think that the Reds were going to find themselves in Tampa Bay,
Mm-mm.
but I definitely think they lost themselves.
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah, and Carrie brings up a good point here. Like it feels like today they fell off the cliff, and that's
Yeah.
exactly kind of how it felt. Like this was a game where you were set up. Like I said, you were set up to win, and you found a way to lose it. And it almost feels like that is the sum and the synopsis of the season, right? Like
Yeah.
you have places and spots where you're supposed to win games, winnable games where you're supposed to do well, and you're set up right there. You get a great outing from Hunter Green. You scratch together a run, You taking it to the eighth inning. You're supposed to have two guys that are pretty good at closing out games. You bring the one in, he walks three guys. Like it's like just finding ways to lose good games. And
Right.
yeah, that's I mean, I just feel like that is the synopsis of this season. So like we're expecting so many things to happen, and it's a walk here, an error there, a pickoff play here, caught stealing, drop third strike. I mean,
Yeah.
any kind of way, any kind of just bad news bearish way to lose a baseball game. We found it. We found
Yeah.
it. And I guess that's the frustrating thing is that we know talent wise that this team is better than this. They're better
Right.
than this. So I don't know, but yeah, I would have to agree with the carry. Like I didn't feel like the Tampa Bay series was going to turn the season around, but I'd have
Mm.
felt a lot better winning 2 or 3. And you take 4 or 5 from the Braves and the Rays. I feel a little bit better knowing that you're coming back to play the Cubs, who are also trying to stay above water, and you have a shot at winning there at home. But now it's
Right.
kind of like now it's a little bit lackluster.
That's the and it's funny because you mentioned that the base running miscues, like I think those got overshadowed by just how
Hmm.
ridiculous the eighth inning was, but those were as big a part of this game
Hmm.
as the eighth inning itself. I mean, the top of the second inning, the Reds had a great threat on. You had Austin Wins up, your number 9 hitter. He is able to eke through a single through the infield,
Hmm.
scores Fairchild from second, and you're like, all right, we're cooking with gas. Here comes India.
Yep.
Here comes Ellie. Let's
Yep.
roll. And Austin Wins. His mind leaves his body, and he's like, I'm going to be able to stretch this into a double because they're going to try and throw home and get the run. And well, the Rays don't play
They
defense
don't.
like the
They
Reds
don't play
do
D.
because I
Yep.
think if the
Exactly.
Reds were playing defense there, they would have tried to throw home.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then you had
They.
other plays. I mean,
Yeah.
Ellie was aggressive, and I love the 4 steals, and I actually love the
Hmm.
game that he put together. I mean, he was the only guy that was doing any sort of damage,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he still also managed to have some miscues on the bases because my man
Yep.
just knows how to run and doesn't know how to stop.
Yep. Yep. That's true. And that's the thing. Like, and you mentioned that the defensive stuff has made me think. I was like, oh my gosh, like yeah, the Tampa Bay Rays play fundamental, hit the cutoff guy to throw
Yep.
to second. Like they don't do silly stuff like trying to throw all the way home, trying to get it out. They know they're not going to get. So, but yeah, it's just stuff like that, man. It's so frustrating because I feel like they should be further along than what they are. Like that stuff shouldn't still be going on in July. Like
No.
that stuff shouldn't be going on. We still should not be getting picked off bases or having running base miscues. Like that
Right.
stuff shouldn't be happening. So yeah, it's just really frustrating just to see all that stuff and just the different ways we found to either take ourselves out of games or to just lose games outright.
And that for me, like, I know that once you get to the major league level, it's not as if it's the manager's job to make sure that everybody has their fundamentals in order. But
Hmm.
it feels like there are, you always say, well, hindsight's 2020. It seems like there's a lot of things that the Reds do that regular sight should have seen. I
Should have
don't think
seen,
it's
yeah.
it's not like, well, hindsight, we probably shouldn't have tried to take that extra base. No,
Nope.
everyone in the stands put their head in their
Get
hands
down.
the moment that he rounded first. Like, you're a
Yep.
catcher. You're a
Yep.
catcher. What are you
Yep.
doing? Because they had a
Yeah.
chance for a big inning and they lose it. And then later on with the, getting picked off and just,
Yep.
it was, it's things like that that have happened so many times. And I was
Hmm.
telling you before we started the stream is like, it's gotten so tired of,
Yep.
oh boy, you can't lose a game that way, or you can't lose a lead that way, or you
Hmm.
can't not score a run because of the way that you just ran the bases there. But we've said it so often, and because of that,
Mm.
I turn that around and I say, all right, what is David Bell doing for this? Because I get it. His post game comments are for us, but they're
Mm-hmm.
also not to bury his team. So he's
Mm-hmm.
not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. But we have constantly heard the same thing. And Ben, you can recite it as much as I can. That
Yep.
as soon as the camera comes on, as soon as the microphone hits record, but we're close. We're about to turn the corner. I really think
Yep.
we're getting there, man. We just go out there and we compete every day and just give it our all. We know,
Dude,
we know.
that's spot on. That's spot on. That was perfect. But yeah, like, and I'll ask you this, Jeff. Like, how, like, I know they're all professionals. Those dudes are grown men, and I get that. But how much of this stuff falls on David Bell? Like, at some point, you got to be like, dude, they play like they don't even respect you. Like,
Right.
like we go out here and play baseball, but it's like it's not for him. We don't, I mean, he's not going to say anything that we even really care about. I mean, that's what happens with teams that don't have good leadership at the top. When you don't have good leadership at the top, then guys do what they want to do, and there's no repercussions. Like, it doesn't matter. Like even the little base thing where Ellie got the ball at short and he waited for the guy to get to the base and he stepped on it real quick. Like, yeah, that's funny, blah blah blah. But dude, like, we're pros. Like
Right.
that stuff with real managers wouldn't fly. And that's and I'm not saying that Ellie can't have fun. I'm not saying that. Please don't persecute
No,
me. I love Ellie and I love Ellie and his personality. I love all that stuff. But like the many times we've been caught off, I can't remember a season where we've had this many people picked off bases.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not saying not be aggressive, but like basic baseball fundamentals. Like, man, like you can't be that bad on the base pads and expect to win games or be in the hunt for the playoffs that way, or take an extra base. I love the aggression, but sometimes, dude, we just need you to stay at first so that we can keep a rally going. That next guy can bat, or we can do whatever. But it's just weird stuff like that falls on. Like, I feel like that kind of falls on leadership.
Like whatever thought process empowered Austin Wins to feel like taking an extra base was the right thing there, it shouldn't. No. And that's where David Bell, David Bell's got to step in on that. And I'm with you. And I understand your point too about Ellie. And I thought it, I'm like, this is a lot of fun. This is exactly the kind of thing that would ingratiate like a casual fan to baseball and kind of be like, look, these guys are having a lot of fun. And I would love it more if this team were more successful, because this feels like it's a kind of cross sports for a minute. This kind of feels like, the Bengals are down by 30 and they get a first down and the player that gets the first down jumps up and does a dance. And you're like, dude,
you're down,
dude,
look, down 30, bro.
Yeah. Like, scoreboard, like, look at the standings. Look where we are in the wild card. We've been in the same spot for the last month and a half. Where it's like, okay, we're not losing ground, but we certainly aren't gaining ground. And the more and more time that they spend 5-6 games back right here, it just feels like it might as well be as far back as where the Rockies and the Marlins are at this point. Because, yes, they can go on a run, but in order to go on a run, it just feels like they don't have the tools to do that now for whatever reason. And I think there's an over optimistic part of my brain that wants to say, but the injuries, but even still, like at this point, the only guy they're missing is Matt McClellan. I mean, then they're missing CES as well. I almost forgot about CES because even when he was here, he wasn't all that great this year. But they're only missing like 2 guys at this point. So what is the excuse for the lineup right now? And it's because it's things that were not addressed in the offseason. It's things that, okay, we're just waiting. We're kind of hoping that these guys are going to work out. And what's our buddy Chad say about hope?
Yep.
It's not a strategy. It's not a strategy.
It's sure not. And I think that's they're. I mean, it's just, and we talked about this last week. Like I don't know. Like I want to blame David Bell, but I can't, because you can only cook with the ingredients you're given. And I don't think this team strategically planned well. They're just not deep enough. And the biggest thing is the teams that you see that are on top or playing well are consistent. It's that consistency. It's guys being able to do their job day in and day out and provide a consistent just level of play, like just a major league level of play. And for some reason, rhyme or reason, we don't have that. We don't play with that consistency. We don't play with that sense of urgency. Um, and I'm not in that locker room. I don't know anything about, but like it's very difficult to play with that kind of like press and pace if you don't have somebody at the top of it that has that press and pace. Like I don't feel like David Bell has a sense of urgency. Like I feel like
And
he feels like everything is secure, everything's safe. We're just trying to get things right. Well, I'm like, well, this has been going on for a while now. Like we got to see something turn the page.
right. And I feel like, and I've seen a couple of comments kind of roll by to this
Hmm.
effect, and it's multiple people, so I don't want to single out anybody for having a good take. Everybody's kind of on fire tonight. Comment
Oh yeah,
section's
they
just
are.
rolling.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Um, there's something about David Bell, and every time you hear a player, you hear a reporter talk about, man, the players love him, or this player said this about him, or they feel so comfortable around him. Maybe that's the point, and maybe
Yep.
that's the thing that needs to change.
Hmm.
Because I'm trying to been putting my finger on it. Like David Bell by himself is not the problem with this team. There are multiple problems with this team, and quite frankly, the way that the Reds have structured stuff, it's a very corporate approach to leadership. It's a little bit of David, a little bit of Derek, a little bit of Nick Kroll, a little bit of all these other guys, Jeff Pickler. All these other guys have input.
Hmm.
So just taking out one does not change enough when it comes to how the Reds attack things. But if you can bring in somebody that can ratchet up the accountability a little bit,
Hmm.
maybe make these guys feel a little bit uncomfortable, I think that that's going to help this squad. I think it's going to help
Hmm.
Ellie. It's going to help all the young players because they have been brought up and they have begun their careers in this sort of environment that's been very fostering and very nurturing to them. And that's all well and good.
Hmm.
But I don't know that that has translated them into consistent, you know, and I think that this term is overused a little bit, but I think it sort of applies. Killer mentality
Hmm.
that we just haven't seen with this team. Yeah, they've had like fun rallies and stuff like that, but a lot of that was last year. It hasn't
Yeah.
happened this year, and they haven't quite
Mm-mm.
found that groove again.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things that could hit that. One, I think veteran leadership, a little
Yes,
bit of that is missing.
mm.
Um, and
I
you bring up a
underrated the
really
heck out of that. By
me
the way,
too.
I
I
I
did
didn't
too.
think it
I'm
was
not
that
even gonna lie.
important.
Yeah, I did too.
It's
Yeah.
definitely needed.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I think a little bit of veteran leadership is missing. And I agree with you 100%. David Bell is not 100% of the issue, but I also don't think he helps with accountability. And it's nice to be a player's coach, and a lot of guys like being players coaches and guys that people are they don't feel like everything's live or die. But sometimes you need that guy that is going to push you and not just let you be average.
Right.
And I think I mean, I'm not saying that, I just don't think David Bell's personality is fiery rah rah. And I'm not saying you have to be fiery rah rah, but there has to be a certain level of accountability where things just aren't acceptable.
Right.
And that's what I think. That's where you miss that a manager like that and a veteran leader like that, where things just aren't acceptable. Like
Right.
like those things can't happen in our clubhouse. They can't happen on the field. We can't play that way. That's not Cincinnati Reds baseball. Like you got to create a culture that's going to foster winning and not just mediocrity like it is right now. Because they're just like, we're winning some games here or there. You did a perfect David Bell. We're trying. we're trying. I mean, our guys are playing hard. They're like, no, I mean, like this. That sometimes guys need that fiery, just. And I'm not saying he's got to throw chairs every night, but
Right.
there's got to be something there, like it. And I just feel like they don't have that. They don't have that spark.
Bunch of lollygaggers. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's and you're right about that, because the just the mentality of David Bell, it just seems so very accepting of everything. Like, I know,
Mm-hmm.
he was asked about the contact play, where, when you've got a runner on third base, less than 2 outs, and you don't have like a force play at home, whatever the contact is, that guy on third is running, as long as it's not in the air or something like that. But he constantly responds to this as, well, it's what we do, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, should you reconsider that though? Like,
Yeah.
and then, like, there's other times where he addresses it like, well, we want to be perfect, we're not perfect, but we really want to be perfect, but you know what, you can't be perfect, so we're gonna strive for perfection, but we're not gonna be perfect because we're human. So, but we just gotta keep going. Like,
Thanks. That makes
uh-huh,
me feel a lot better.
yeah, it's that how that works, David. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a frustrating weekend, and
Yeah.
there are 57 games left.
Yep.
This National League is mediocre, so we could talk ourselves into a lather and maybe think about wild card, but I'm kind of out on that. I think I'm kind of. Ben, I know that we've talked a little bit before in the past, and in case folks aren't aware, I try to be positive. I try to be sometimes a little bit, maybe too positive about the Reds, and they've beaten that down in my brain this year. I think I've gone from an optimist to a realist, and here we are. We are at the trade deadline. There are some headlines with this team, some rumors that I also think got squashed by some moves that other teams made, that I do kind of want to get to. Do we need to take like a break or something like that?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're
So
good.
let's roll into that. The big headline, the big actual news piece, is the return of TJ Friedl. I alluded to that a little bit. It was great to see. I thought it was interesting because I saw some quotes of him that said that he wants to, make sure that he's ready to go. He wants to spend time in AAA and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's ready to return to the major leagues. And I think he had enough time to park his car in Louisville before getting back in and turning around and going to Cincinnati. Yeah. So
I was going to say, I think he maybe got an oil change down there, and then he was like, all right, I'm good. Let's go.
he hit up what's the Louisville? It's like Louisville Live or something like that.
Oh yeah, 4th Street Live. Yep.
4th Street Live. He got a nice drink, and then they said, all right, come on back. And so here he is. He's back in Cincinnati, which I'm happy to see. But what was your reaction to his spot in the lineup once he returned?
Yeah, dude. Once again, like I don't know. Like I don't understand. I'm not understanding why. Like, why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? Like, what are we doing? Like, what? Like, he's not. Why is this guy? You think this guy is your cleanup guy? Like,
right?
Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I really don't. I mean,
I think that the human side, and look, I know that these guys are all ball players, and we want to believe that they operate under this mentality of, yes, coach, wherever you put me, I will play. But I've got to believe that Spencer Steer, Tyler Stevenson, and Jamer Candelaria all looked at each other when they saw that lineup card and was like, are you betting? You're not betting cleanup? No, you're not betting.
Right.
TJ's betting cleanup?
Yeah.
TJ, you ready to bet cleanup? Like, I got to believe there was a little bit of the ego that got a little bit annoyed by that decision. And I'm not saying that any performance stemmed from that annoyance. I think that they're able to put that aside once they get out onto the field. But just the way that lineup was made, like, I think sometimes the Reds manage on the imagination and what they hope will happen in the
Mm-hmm.
game. And then there could be this great story about how TJ Friedel can bat anywhere in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And he is this just absolute moldable, complete chameleon of a guy. And that's why they put him cleanup. They didn't put him cleanup because it was a good idea. They put him cleanup because they thought it would be a good headline.
Yep. Yeah. No, I would definitely agree with that. And I think that for them, I think that this is going to sound crazy, but I don't know if they were prepared for Friedel to be back so soon. So they're like, well, India's been doing well there. Ellie's, let's just put him in cleanup. You're like, no, like what are we
Right.
doing? But no, you're exactly right. I there's just no rhyme or reason for it. Like I don't understand it. So the idea of that being the headline and them wanting him to go 3 for 4 with a homer on his return and see this is the TJ Friedel that we love and he's back and we can put him anywhere. You're like, that's not the case. That's just not the case. I'm not sure what the rhyme or reason was for besides the fact that I think that they were like, oh, TJ's playing today? Really? Oh,
Yeah.
let's yeah, we'll bat him fourth. Yeah, that's the ticket. You're like, okay.
You're like, well, India's on fire, so he can't bat leadoff.
Yeah, can't bat. Yeah.
Ellie's on fire. He can't bat second.
Yeah.
He really shouldn't bat third. We really need a power bat in there. Fourth, we really need an RBI guy. Is he an RBI guy? No. But Candelaria's not hitting that consistently, and Spencer Steer's kind of been on and off. Yeah, let's put him in cleanup. Yeah, let's do that.
Put him in cleanup. Yep, that's exactly what happened.
I don't know, Ben. I don't know. And then on top of that, we got 3 headlines out of this one roster move, because they put him cleanup and they send down Rhys Hines, which I think there is a discussion about that to be had. Mm-hmm. He had been 1 for 17 since his hot streak.
Yep.
And his hot streak was as much of a surprise to any of us because we knew what he was doing in the minor leagues. And while he was a prospect a couple of years ago, he has kind of since fallen down from that. But yeah, it's like Rhys Hines kind of felt like a dude that maybe gets a little bit more of a shot. And I could have even squinted and seen a world where you send down my dude, and I love him to death, but he has been so inconsistently, actually more consistently bad than good this year. You could have sent down Will Benson and given him a little bit of time to clear his head.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. It did kind of shock me that they sent Rhys Hines down just because, I mean, I know he's gone 1 for 17 and that's tough, but I felt like he was a guy that you could see working through some of those things, with some at bats and things like that. But I don't really understand that, but yeah, that's a good point about Will Benson though. Will Benson, I think, could have been a guy that could have definitely taken a little bit of time down there to clear his thoughts and kind of clear his process and then get back up. But I don't know. A lot of the times, dude, I'm not sure what the rhyme or reason is for what they do or really why they do it. Like for me, like Rhys Hines is a kid that needs at bats. Like he just needs at bats and he's going to clear it out and be better. But I don't know. I just think that he was a kid I kind of liked because he did provide a little bit of a spark, but I don't know.
I'll be
honest.
Like I said,
I shake my head a lot at some of the stuff, but
yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel like some of this season has been not even reactionary, almost panicky with the way that they've handled the roster. And I kind of feel like with Rhys Hines, I did this, and a lot of people said immediately whenever he blew up, Aristides Aquino 2.0.
Yep.
And I didn't say it out loud. Like I kind of thought it. I'm like, see, we didn't expect this. He came up with a high strikeout rate in AAA. Like he was almost striking out like 45% of the time or something like that. And so we're thinking, oh, he's a free swinger and he just happened to run into a bunch of fastballs. Now let's see what happens when they throw him breaking balls. But that's not how he approached an at bat. He was very good at understanding the breaking ball and
Mm-hmm.
putting the bat on the ball. He was able to level the bat when he needed to. You saw him working through at bats and working through counts, and it was a little bit smarter of an at bat than I expected from the strikeout
Mm-hmm.
percentage that I saw. And so because of that, I'm like, yes, I do want to see more of him. I want to see him work through this. And defensively, he's always going to be a bit of an enigma because
Mm-hmm.
early on in his minor league career, he was a third baseman.
Right.
And while he was in Dayton, they're like, all right, we're going to move him to the outfield. We're going to get him acclimated to the outfield. And he's a corner outfielder. He's not a center fielder, but we're going to give him a little bit of time. And so let's see exactly what that will turn into. But I just kind of feel like this entire year we have seen Will Benson really, really struggle. And he has
Mm-hmm.
had a couple of games here and there where he's gone off. But
Mm-hmm.
then there's been a lot of long stretches where it's like, dude, just doesn't seem to be able to put the bat on the ball. And then our follow up question to, well, should you send him down is, well, who's going to play for him?
Right.
TJ Friedel was ready. Reese Hines was here. Reese Hines probably could have gotten another week, another two. You know, the minimum stay for a guy that gets sent down to AAA is
Mm-hmm.
10 days. Give Will
Mm-hmm.
Benson 10 days and give Reese Hines 10 more days.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're to this point where the season has kind of devolved to where I think most of us are understanding that the Reds are turning from a contention team to a, all right, we're still developing, we're figuring out who's going to be here for next year. You know, there's definitely been some positives to the development side of this season. But who else can we find? So I thought that all would have worked and I would have understood it. But
Yep.
the Reese Hines thing to me just kind of seems like last in, first out.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
Such a funky explanation for it. There were a couple of interesting injury updates, positive for the most part. Emilio Pagan is slated for an early August return, which is so funny because in my brain I say early August. I'm like, golly, August is so far away. It was like 3 days away.
I was gonna say it's like next week.
Yeah, so we got like 7 to 10 days probably before we see Emilio Pagan back. Ian Gibault is a possible return of mid-August. Talk about a
Okay.
weird year for him. I talked to him when he was on a rehab assignment in Dayton back in April.
Yeah.
And I remember he was very optimistic back then. He was almost like, yeah, this is all procedural, just making sure that everything's good. And then all of a sudden he has a weird flare up and he's on the injured list for basically the entire year. So
Entire year. Yeah.
he could be back, and hopefully these guys revamp a bullpen that desperately needs it.
Yes. Yep.
And then, you know, we keep hearing really good stuff about our dude Matt McLean.
Mm-hmm.
Rehab assignment possibly coming at the beginning of August. I feel like I've said this a lot, and Steve, my co-host over on Locked On Reds, we've kind of said this a lot as to our feelings on the matter. Ben, what do you feel whenever you hear, yeah, Matt McLean, we could be seeing him before September, let alone at all this season?
I don't like it. Here's the thing. Like, I honestly, like, if he's going to help, there's 55 games or 54 games left. If he were going to help us get into playoff contention, or if we were close to playoff contention, then it's different. I have a hard time with guys that have been injured all year coming back in September, and you just play them just to play them. Like, you're just doing it just because you want to get them on the field. I don't know if anybody's ever injured a shoulder, but shoulders are really hard to rehab. Ask Tyler Stevenson how hard it is to rehab from a shoulder. It's taken him almost a year for him to actually feel like himself. So to just throw him out there just because he's cleared or whatever the case may be, is it really worth it? Not really to me, because he's really playing for nothing. Like, we're not, so there's no really point of putting him out there. or he dives on the shoulder again, tears it again. Like there's really no reason for putting him out there at the end, especially at the beginning of September or end of August. I'm like, I don't that those games by that point. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So I'm not a big fan of it because I think the rehab of a shoulder takes longer than what is expected because I don't think that people understand how that like ligament and issue and all that stuff, it truly doesn't get its stuff truly worked out for a full year. And you're
Right.
giving him like what, 6 months, 5 months. Like I don't know. I just
Yeah.
don't like it. I'm just not a fan of bringing him back. Let the guy get his whole year out, keep him out for the year, and then come back in spring training.
And I've seen reporters like quoting him and all this. They're saying, man, he is gung ho to come back. He wants to come back as soon as he's able to. And it's
Oh, of
just like
course.
good. That should be his
Mm-hmm.
mentality of it. And the Reds should be man enough and managerial enough to
Yep.
be like, this probably isn't the best thing for you. And I don't necessarily know, like, if the Reds are still in this position where they are 5 games out, whatever that record looks like, where they're 4 or 5 games out of the wild card, I almost feel like it doesn't take them that long to convince themselves that Matt McLain coming back will help that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I want that though. Like,
Yeah.
this
They'll
dude,
they'll bring him back because that's what the Reds do.
yeah,
I
right,
mean,
and this dude is the second most important player in the lineup, to Ellie De La Cruz. And I know that there was much of last year where in their rookie seasons Matt McLain was better than Ellie. So that's telling you how important this guy is. Whether you believe he is second or first, the point is he is A or B. He is
right.
The one dude that it's felt like at different times this year, had they had him in the lineup, had they had him in the field, then things would have been different in a lot of different cases. But if you put in jeopardy the fact that he can start next season fully healthy because you bring him back for 25 odd games, 30 odd games, like, at that point, what are we really doing here? And I kind of, I don't know. Like, I think I'm in the camp that I want to be really, really conservative with Matt McLain's.
Yep.
Return.
That dude is, to me, him and I mean, he's the future of our club. I'm not worried about him this year. Like if he can't come back this year, of course he's going to say he wants to. Dude's a baseball player. He's an athlete. He's not going to say, "Oh, well, no, I'm going to sit it out." No, dude, he's been itching to play. This is what he does. So, as an organization, you have to be smart about the longevity and think future. Especially with Matt McLain, like this guy has MVP caliber ability, and you want to be able to let him fully heal and get back next week. You don't want to bring him back for, like you said, 20, 25 games that will make you feel better because now he's in the lineup, but it really doesn't mean a hill of beans to really anybody else. So, but yeah, I just think that they just need to go ahead and say, hey, we're going to shut him down, let him rehab. He can do his rehab. That way he's ready for the spring when we start next year.
Yep. So. And I firmly agree with that. The other side of the stories and in the headlines and all this other stuff aren't necessarily like, this happened. It's more rumors and it's more feelings about the deadline. Speaking of Matt McLain, his injury opened up the opportunity for Jonathan India to remain at second base. I feel like he has really taken that and ran with it.
Oh, yeah.
Great season at the plate. A more improved season in the field from where it has been the last couple of years. He's still, I still wouldn't call him a good glove at second base, but he's an okay average glove at second base. But there are rumors about the New York Yankees being interested, and you know what? Good on them for realizing the obvious. All 29 other teams should be interested in this guy with as good as he's been this year. But the reports were from everybody that love to report rumors that the New York Yankees were thinking about Jonathan India. Well, they went out and they traded for Jazz Chisholm.
Jazz Chisholm, yeah.
And while he hasn't done it in a while, Jazz Chisholm has experience at second base, and there are many that surmise he will be doing that here soon for the Yankees. I think his first game he still played center field.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that takes the Yankees out of the equation for Jonathan India, which I think the equation was already very unlikely to happen at all. But I think that completely shuts down any idea that the Reds are trading India before the deadline happens.
Right. No, yeah. That was the one spot if he were going to go, I thought he would go. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't think anybody else really has a market for Jonathan India. So that was the Yankees were the one where that popped up. I was like, ooh, that could happen. But then they're like, we'll go get Jazz Chisholm. I'm like, okay, Yankees do Yankee things. You know what I mean? So
right. And I think I remember the Mariners were interested as well, but
yeah,
I think the Mariners
they're always interested in Reds players. So I mean, that's
yeah. Jerry DePoto and Nick Kroll have like a speed dial connection on their phone or something. I don't know. But they did go out and they got Randy Arozarena, so I don't necessarily know that they have the stomach to go out and be like, let's trade all of our prospects for a couple of guys today. Which they're all under multiple years of control, and I think that kind of changes my tune a little bit with this, because I mentioned earlier, I didn't think that this Rays series, as awful as it was, should change the Reds' plans for the deadline, because I think coming into this week, really, the Reds, at least from a front office perspective, not from an on-field perspective, but a front office perspective, should have been looking toward 2025. And can you acquire a guy now that is here next year, at the very least as well, like not a rental player, a multiple year guy? That should not have changed based on this team is still poised. As much as I thought they were poised this year, they're definitely poised next year, having gone through all the trials and travails of the 2024 season. I surely hope that they're better off for it, but that's what we keep hearing, that they're going to be better off for it. So prove it to us next year and make sure that the team is solid, make sure that everything is planned out, make sure that the roster is ironclad, and you start that with this deadline. What say you? Because I know that there's buyers, sellers, all this other stuff. I don't think the Reds were ever going to be a traditional either one of those.
No. I mean, you bring up a great point, and we've talked about this before. Like the Reds' base lineup and roster is decent. It's developing the depth that other good teams have to be able to sustain possible injuries, IL stints, somebody going down, whatever. Like we just don't have the depth that really good teams have. Like the Braves lose Ronald Acuna, and they're still the Braves. Because they have guys that are there that they develop that can play. Now, of course, the guy that's filling in for Ronald Acuna ain't Ronald Acuna. We know that. No. But they still don't – they didn't fall off the face of the earth because he got hurt. They still are in the playoff picture. They're still playing well.
What you're saying is, Ben, they didn't bring up an infielder, career minor league infielder, to play the outfield.
Correct.
By the name of Levi Jordan.
Right, exactly. But, I think what I want to see from them is what you said. Like think of 2025 of how you're going to solidify this roster where you've got enough depth that you can survive different moves, different things going on, and that you don't have to pull up different guys from the minor leagues that aren't ready. You don't have to pull up different guys from the minor leagues that, they can give you a couple of bats here or there, but they're not going to be sustainable on your roster. Develop a roster where you can have sustainable success with the guys day in and day out that are going to play consistent.
And I think that there is an element that the front office would push back and say, well, we are trying to develop long-term success. And it's like, yes, well, Nick, we were talking about at the beginning of this season, when you looked at the Louisville Bats roster, you saw maybe two guys, if that, that you would actually want to call upon should you need them. And
Yep.
they exhausted that very quickly with all the
Mm.
injuries that they started the year with.
Yep.
And then you saw other roster churns and things like that that just showed the very weak nature of the major league depth. And you're exactly right. They have to have that in place at the beginning of next season, and they also need to make sure that they have a good contingency plan for if someone is hurt, because I think that they should know by now, over the last couple of years, the chances of everyone A, improving, and B, staying healthy at the same time are like the stars aligning. It's probably going to happen at some point, but probably going to happen at some point is not a good thing to be planning for. So plan
Correct.
for the 80%. Plan for the not best case scenario, because that kind of feels like how this team plans. And whether that's a budget thing, whether that's an actual strategy thing, I don't know. But I feel like even if Nick Kroll is being given a budget, and I still believe, and this isn't to say that I think that the plan is 1000% solid, but I believe that he is implementing his plan. There is no input from ownership other than here's your budget.
Yeah.
So how does he work within his own plan and work within the own budget that he has been given? Because this year it did not work.
No, not at all. And to further your point, it was really detrimental to what the roster was trying to complete, right? So
Yeah.
you're trying to get guys, you have your Ellies, you have your Steers, you have your Friedels, you have your Fraleys sometimes to an extent, but you have these guys that you're relying on, and you're supposed to have complementary pieces to go with it. And those complementary pieces, it was a struggle at times, especially because when you lost Friedel and then you lose McLean, like you said, there was really no like backup plan. You're like, oh, well, let's pull up this guy. You're like, that guy's not ready to play at a major league level.
Right.
All right, well, let's try this guy. Well, no, that guy's not ready. And at some point, you have to go and develop that kind of depth in order to be able to have some sustainability and consistency. So I hope that that's in his plan, in his budget, to be able to bring guys in that are going to help you develop a deeper roster of guys and a deeper pool of guys to pull from when things go awry.
So with that, and I don't love the idea of trading away current major league talent.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of feel like with the way that the market has moved, there's been two big name relief pitchers, and really not even big names. Like, I don't know that the casual baseball fan would know who Carlos Estevez or Jason Adam are,
Mm-hmm.
but the Angels traded away their closer, Carlos Estevez, to the Phillies, and they got back the Phillies' second and third best pitching prospects for him.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Rays, the team that just beat the Reds, traded away their setup man, not even their closer, their setup man, Jason Adam, for 3 prospects. I kind of feel like, and I don't know if these are the same conversations that Nick Kroll is having with other bullpen needy teams. I kind of feel like, should he get an offer like that for Fernando Cruz? Should he get an offer like that for Alexis Diaz? I think I kind of consider it. Yeah.
Got to.
Because they just can't stand pat, Ben. Like, I feel like standing pat's a failure.
Yep. 1,000%. Yeah. They've got to, he does, he's not afforded the luxury to be able to sit on his hands. Can't.
No.
Cannot. So if people have offers for Alexis Diaz, Fernando Cruz, even Sam Moll, any like I feel like any of those guys that are decent relievers, like if you got an opportunity to bring in young pitching prospects or young relievers or whatever, yeah, you got to pull the trigger on that. I don't think that's any question. I mean, I don't know if they'll do it, but I mean that's that's got to be something where you're like, okay, we can add by subtracting. We can add some depth to what we need by taking one or two guys out. So, but no, I think that's definitely got to be the move if it's an offer.
Right. And I think that's where the interesting part of this lies is like, can you make it to where it's like a prospect and a reliever and maybe you get back a controllable guy? Like
Hmm.
I think, and I know that we have spent the better part of the last hour talking about, man, I just don't know about this team. I still think Nick Krall is going to make a move between now and then that we're all going to go like, okay,
Okay.
all right, because I feel like he has made most of his decisions have been
Yeah.
like, all right, I didn't see that coming, but you know what? I think it works out this way.
Yeah.
Now, I don't love the fact that, we said they needed starting pitching. They go out and they sign Frankie Montas. Frankie Montas hasn't quite exactly been what the Reds have needed.
Hmm.
I feel like they've really got to get proven talent and not, reclamation projects. But for the most part, he has made moves. He has made decisions. And
Hmm.
most of those moves have been very good. Now, the building part is going to be key because a lot of the moves that he has made have been tear down moves for the future. And I don't necessarily know that we can get that excited about, trading for guys that we won't see for 2 or 3 years because it
Right.
feels like the window is now. But do you think, and if you were to say, and not what you would do, not what you hope happens, but what do you think? Do you believe that Nick Krall will make a move between now and Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time?
Um, I I think he will. Um, because I think he feels that pressure to do something.
Yeah.
Um, like we said, if he sits on his hands and nothing happens, then you have to start questioning, does he believe in the team that he's building?
Right.
Because if you're not willing to make a move or do something to help your team win baseball games, then what are you doing? Like if you feel like we're still in contention, we're still in the hunt, then do something that's going to help us get back to where we need to be. So I think he feels that pressure. I think he feels like he's got to do something. I don't know how drastic it'll be, but I do think it'll be something.
I think so too. And the Sam Moll trade last year was the only thing that he did. And I thought it was a solid move.
Hmm.
I didn't think it was enough at the time, and certainly it proved to be not enough.
Right.
Uh, so I'm interested to see exactly how he's going to move this trade deadline. But this trade deadline is the beginning of the offseason for me. In the
Hmm.
offseason, they absolutely have to address this outfield. They have
Yep.
to at least get one guy. Really, they need to get three. But
I was going to say, you're being generous.
yeah, I'm trying to
Being
keep
generous.
the bar low. Trying to keep the bar low for our Reds here. But they really need to get one guy this offseason. Carrie, to answer your question, will there be a hunt for Reds October? I don't think, not this year.
Yeah.
I have seen too much to lead me to believe that this team just doesn't have enough of what it takes. I think they've got
Mhm.
stars. And that's kind of where, as we move into this Cubs series, and as we, move past the trade deadline into August, and Ben, I don't know if you've looked at September, but that schedule is brutal.
It's brutal.
Um,
Yeah, it's brutal.
it's the kind of stretch that were they playing good baseball, boy, they have a real opportunity to jump up on some teams ahead of them. Um, but I wonder how that's all going to go because they have a horrible record against wild card NL wild card contenders, not named the Cubs or Braves. Um, but yeah, I believe that this is the kind of I've lost my train of thought. Where did I start with that? Hunt for Reds October. That's what it was. Hunt
Yeah,
for Reds
yeah.
October. I just don't think it's going to happen this year.
No, I don't think so.
So,
It
but
it
yeah,
would be nice for them to make a run, but no, I don't think so.
I got too preoccupied with trying to roll that into moving into previewing the Cubs and talking about how some guys on this team have really developed in a good
Yep.
way, and then I just
Yep.
twisted it into a pretzel there. That
There
was pretzel twisting in real time with Jeff Carr.
it is.
Let's do that. Let's look at the Cubs series real quick, and then I kind of want to get your feelings on a few guys that have really impressed so far this season. Looking at the Reds and the the Cubbies, the folks from Mason are going to be down at the ballpark these next 3 days here, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We got Carson Spires going up against Jameson Taillon on Monday. We've got Justin Steele on the mound, oh boy, on Tuesday for the Cubs. Frankie Montas. I don't like the pitching matchups in this here, Ben. I don't like them at all, except for Wednesday. Wednesday's interesting. You got Nick Lodolo on the mound against Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks, I think if you put your and my age together, and I'm not exactly sure how old you are, but I'm pretty sure that if you put us together, we're still not as old as Kyle Hendricks is.
No.
He's gonna be pitching for the Cubs on Wednesday. Don't love the first two pitching matchups. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Jameson Taillon has pitched pretty decently against the Reds during his career.
Yep.
And Carson Spires is a guy that I think his most recent start has been a little bit of cold water poured on what was a pretty nice little run for him to begin his season in 2024. I still kind of want to see more of this because he has been better than Graham Ashcraft was. And can he continue to be that? Can he continue to keep his name in the conversation for the starting rotation, especially when he's got studs coming up these next, honestly, next year, while it should be a playoff year, should also be a really exciting year from the future standpoint because both Rhett Lauder and Chase Burns could be called up in the same year.
Yep.
And that will be phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, Carson Spires here on Monday, interesting chance to start this series off on the right foot. Cubs are just as frustrating this year as the Reds.
Yep.
If not more so, because they went out and got Craig Counsell, everybody's favorite manager. It didn't quite work out for him.
No, it sure didn't. You know why? That's the curse of David Ross. They didn't tell him that he was fired before they hired another manager. So you got the curse of David Ross now, boys. I'll tell you what.
He spent that lame duck time putting curses on the on Wrigley Field and all that other stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, this is gonna be intriguing to me because one, if I do the math right, which is never a given. One win by the Cubs. If they win on Monday, the Reds already behind them. Yeah, the Reds are already behind them on percentage points, so it'll just make them further in last place and NL Central. It's so frustrating to think about that. And to be quite honest with you, I think if you'd have told me before the season the Cubs and the Reds were meeting for a pivotal matchup here at the end of July, I'd have said, yeah, because they're both fighting for the division. And instead they're both fighting for the cellar.
Yeah, trying to get out of the cellar.
It's an annoying thing. How would you predict these three games?
Frankie Montas has not been great. Carson Spires, he's trying to put it together. But like you said, James Taillon has always been, he's like a Reds killer, dude. He's always been really good against the Reds. Honestly, it depends on which Reds team shows up, man. Like it really does. Like if the Reds team that shows up that was playing in Atlanta, we'll be okay. If the one that was in Tampa Bay, we won't be okay. So I mean, it's I like you said, I don't like our pitching matchup. I mean, I do like our game 3 matchup, but I don't like the first two. And I think that's what it'll come down to. I don't like those two matchups there. So it wouldn't shock me if we took 2 or 3 from them, and it wouldn't shock me if they took 2 or 3 from us.
Yeah. So. I'm kind of at that point too, especially with how this team moves at the trade deadline. Like, how does that affect the psyche of this team? That, I mean, I know that baseball players are a little bit different. They're built different, especially mentally. They have to be able to forget what just happened and focused on what's coming up next.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't tell me that they're not being affected, much like we are, about the way that this season has gone. Like getting swept by Washington and then going and taking, 2 of 2 since the third game is
Mm-hmm.
rained out in Atlanta. They had to be like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
can we not
Yeah.
can we not find a common ground here? And then just the frustratingness of this Rays series that
Yep.
who knows, maybe that's just their thing. They go frustrating, good.
Frustrating.
So maybe
So
they
maybe
win
we're on
this
the good. Maybe we're
series.
on the good one. Yeah. Maybe we're on
Yeah.
the up. There we go.
You just got to catch them at the right time. Got to catch them at the right time. So with that moving forward, I know that we've gone a little over an hour here. Give me talking about the Reds, Ben. I'll
Yeah,
just
we're
keep
good.
talking.
We're good. We're good.
Um, when I look at this season, there's definitely an annoyance with the fact that they are not really. I mean, they're still competing for a playoff spot,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't see them as a playoff team. But if you'd have told me before the season that Hunter and Nick Lodolo will take that step forward that we all want them to, and
Mm-hmm.
Ellie will take a big step forward, and
Mm-hmm.
is just killing all the projections for him, making everybody look like fools, then I'd have been really happy at least about that part. And that's what we've seen so far.
Yeah. Y'all know, absolutely. We talk about that a lot with, especially with Hunter Green,
Yeah,
because he was the guy to us that if we could get him to come out and be consistent with his stuff, that he's a guy that has ace level stuff. Um,
absolutely.
and to watch him grow and mature the way he has this season with how he's gone from being like a strikeout guy to he's more of a thinking man's pitcher this year, where
Yeah,
he's not trying to strike everybody out, but he's pitching the guy's weaknesses, and he's really using his fastball in a different way, and he's using different pitches in a different way. To see that growth and how he's come from where he's just trying to strike everybody out and throw hard to where he is now. Like that's exactly what you want. This guy
yeah,
he has been absolutely phenomenal. And Lodolo's in the same boat. You know, Lodolo had a little bit of struggles here, like in the last few weeks, but other than that, I mean, he's been great. But Lodolo's in the same boat. He's just trying to figure out how can I pitch my stuff and keep it in the zone without it getting hit. So in the
right.
beginning of the season, like he could throw that freaking slider and guys were whiffing like crazy and they were missing and swinging over the top of it. So then guys stopped swinging at that. So you saw his walk rate go up. So then people were starting to lay off of it. So now he's trying to figure out how can I throw my stuff, keep in the zone, and keep it unhittable. And I think that's where he's working to. He looked better in his last outing. Um, and I think that's where he's going to. So those two guys, their growth has been great, and it'll be great for future years because those two have a chance of being 1-2, 1A, 1B at the top of that line for a long time. And of course, Ellie's Ellie, dude. People will get mad about the strikeouts. I don't really care about that. The guy is a baseball player.
Yeah,
Um, the things that he can do, and he's just now scratching the surface. Like he's not even where he's even close to where he's going to be. He's just scratching the surface of seeing his talent start to progress. You give him another off season of just working and getting better. His natural ability took him so far, but once he's putting the work behind it, dude, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. He's only going to get better.
he according to Fangraphs, he is above 5 wins above replacement already.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, which is insane.
I talked about before the season. I thought a bold prediction was anybody on this team gets 6 or more wins above replacement. It looks like Ellie's going to hit that, and he might hit that with like a whole month left in the season. He could go above
Yep.
7. Who knows? Like I don't want to. I don't want to make it seem like he's going to like just go crazy with that. But I've been so impressed with him, and a lot of people really love to belabor the strikeout number,
Yep.
and it's higher than players of old, but the game is different
Game is different
than
completely.
than it used to be. Like if you if you do this, we're gonna look at this from June 1st to now. So pretty much 2 months. We're talking. How many games is that? I should have counted that. Anyway, 2 months basically worth of games. He has a strikeout percentage less than 30. It's down to 29.5. And while that's still higher than you would like, and it's still higher than league average, it is not the astronomical number that I think a lot of people like to think that it is. And there's a lot of people that want to say that this number, this one number, defines him and it shows why he's not going to be good. And I feel like that is such a mistake when you're watching him. Like, that's
100%.
going to get in your way of enjoying the fact that he is just crazy. I mean, he has, I think there are some guys that on the season, they're like in the top 10 of the league. And I'd have to look up the leaders on this, but in the top 10 of the league, and they barely got 20 steals. He has 19 steals in the last 2 months. He's so good.
Insane.
At stolen bases, but he's also hit the ball a ton. I mean, he is. So just looking at the major league leaders in WAR before today's game, the major league, not the National League, the major league, he's 6th in WAR.
Jeez,
we haven't. Joey was always a guy that was competing for top spot and competing for recognition in the national sphere, but I think that, you know, his very quiet personality probably kept him from being a dude. We saw it whenever the Reds went to New York. Major League Baseball wants to advertise Ellie. They want to make him a face of the sport, and he, quite frankly, is stepping up to that plate.
Absolutely, he is. Yeah, he is. And it's cool to see because, like, he has local ads. He's got national ads. He's with Jordan Brand. He's with Gatorade. Like, dude, they are trying to make him that guy, and he ain't running from it. I mean, the guy's gone out and learned how to do interviews in English. He comes in, he meets fans. He's had a baseball clinic here for free for kids. I mean, the dude is not running away from being the face of the league, and he's not running away from being the guy. So it's good to see that his play is matching his personality, and that the league notices that. And baseball needs that. I mean, baseball loves guys that can draw attention to the game, and that's Ellie. I mean, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah, that for me, and you know, not making the playoffs this year, I will chalk it up as an overall failure in my book. But there's definitely been positives like that I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, all right, 2024 is frustrating. But quite frankly, I have no less enthusiasm for their ability to make the playoffs in 2025, get some guys back healthy, have a better idea of how to build a roster around these guys, because there is no excuse now. Like, you know, we always heard the excuse of, well, Ken Griffey costs too much or Joey Votto costs too much. And there is no salary cap in baseball, so that is a lie. But when it comes to Ellie, he is being paid like a rookie. He is playing every bit as good as Joey or Ken Griffey Jr. There is no excuse for not being able to build a team around him. You can't make one. You can't even make one up. So that's really what they've got to do as we move into this offseason and as we have less than 30 hours. Is it 30 hours? No. I should stop doing math, man. Why am I doing
okay, so, I was trying to do it in my head. I'm trying to look.
Hours,
yeah, it's like 32 like maybe.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
As that's where we're at for the trade deadline. It's not 32 hours. Never mind. Don't listen to me on time. But we are Tuesday, 6 p.m. Got the trade deadline. We'll see exactly how it all goes. Ben, man, it's been fun. Appreciate it being able to fill in for Tim.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks for coming by, man. I love when you're on, dude. It's always awesome. We have a good time, and it's always a good conversation. So I'm happy you're able to fill in.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, appreciate you and appreciate everybody that jumped into the comments section and was saying a hearty hey and hello and how are you? Late Night Reds will be back with you next week. I think Tim's back next week as well.
So. He's back next week, yeah.
Talk to you then.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you later.